draft phase.
And Syndra was a pick we saw Wayless bring back into the LPL as we head into Champions League for game number 3 between Saint and Snake. As Lysandra, Rek'Sai, and Trundle, the 3 bans that come out from Saint, Irelia, as well as Talia and LeBlanc will be the 3 bans that come out from Snake. And immediately Gragas is locked in for Saint. Jhin is then locked in straight back for Snake. Vladimir is nowhere to be seen at the moment.
I can't keep up. Writing so quickly. Okay, so priority pick onto the Gragas. I actually really like this. I think a big issue with Snake's composition last game is that they didn't have the disengage and the power that Gragas brings compositions. He has decent 1v1 matchups in the jungle. He offers and can supplement wave clear. More importantly, he can break that mid-tower freeze with the threat of his cast and offers disengage and protection for hyper carries, which hyper carries are coming back.
Snake seem like they want to be locking in this Malzahar, which they banned out last game and was given over towards Saint in that first match. Like you said, Gragas wants that initial lock-in for Saint, and still no sign of Vladimir as Ashe and Braum get locked in for Saint.
Yeah, but already you have Jhin and Malzahar on the side of Snake. If both of those guys open up into their ultimates and are standing next to each other, bam, Cask, Dunzo. On the other side, you have the pseudo Jhin, effectively, or we call Jhin the pseudo Ashe. Long-range initiation with the ultimate. It's the mustache lane. It's got great 2v2 power and potential, as well as excellent lane swap should Snake try to pull that again.
We'll have to see what Snake decide to pick up as their next 2 picks, because, you know, in that last game, they looked really strong with their initial lane, so they picked up 2 very early turrets, uncontested. Saint were not able to return the favor. They were losing in CS in a couple of lanes, but it was just later on in the match where Saint really looked like they shined, which is awkward to say, really.
Yeah, it was really the fumble and kind of mid-game decision-making as, again, fast and furious through this draft phase.
It will be the Alistar and Gnar that gets locked in for Snake, so lots of crowd control coming into this third match, something that were lacking slightly in that second game.
I like the addition of the Gnar just because range matchup punishes a lot of melee matchup top laners. Again, I said that they really need to prioritize Fondre getting a very strong 1v1. Had to show their hands early so they could give tank, or excuse me, not tank, SOFM the counter matchup. I made that point assuming that they would give it to the mid laner, and then halfway through I was like, they didn't do that. They gave it to their all-star jungler.
Yep, they want SOFM to get a good matchup here against a Gragas, which he's seen already. So it seems like Snake are looking to just lock in the picks they want first and not allow it to be denied away by Saint, as we will see the Birdman Swain be picked up by Saint as well as Victor in the mid lane, so lots of magic damage coming out from Saint's team.
So Snake just prioritizing the Gnar, thinking that they didn't want to give him up. That's really the only option here rather than trying to find any sort of counter matchup. So they think that this is the best. Oh god.
It is possible. Might not be what they pick up. It's definitely not going to the jungle here for Oscar as they lock in Syndra. Does that mean... Is that a Malzahar in the jungle?
That is Malzahar jungle. I hope you're ready for solo queue. Okay, so how Malzahar works in the jungle is that he jungles ridiculously fast and very healthy. Issue is that his initial ganks actually aren't that powerful because he relies on walking into the lane, setting his E on you and having his Voidlings chase you down. Obviously, post level 6, his ganks get very powerful, but his ability to burn monster objectives like Dragon and Baron at ridiculously early levels with ridiculously healthy is pretty potent and powerful.
For a series that absolutely does not change the standings of Group A in any way, shape or form, this has been a phenomenal series and it just changes things once again as SOFM. We thought that last pick's going to him. Nope, they're going to be picking up Syndra as the final pick here for Snake. And he's going to be bringing Malzahar into the jungle against Chimon's Gragas.
The old misdirection there. But they've also run 3 very different compositions. So we'll see how Snake execute this time around.
Let's see if they can do just that as we head into Summoner's Rift for game number 3 between Snake and Saint. onto Summoner's Rift for the third match of this best-of-3 series. With that second game win, Saint were able to tie it back up 1-1. And Frostgrin, I just can't stop looking at a jungle Malzahar that's floating onto the Rift at the moment.
It's fine.
It's going to be fun.
It's the jungle Malzahar. He's got the Storm Raider, so he's ready to go fast. Again, it's the speed and safety at which Malzahar can clear through his jungle using his Voidlings. We will keep an eye on kind of what he goes to itemize on a professional scene.
Oh, we certainly will.
I've seen some pretty crazy things in Malzahar, including an 80 Malzahar in solo queue. I don't think that will be the path, but it is SOFM.
So we've now seen it top lane, jungle, and mid lane. A champion that can play 3 different roles when called upon.
Just so good. Again, this is 6.14, so the big changes to Malzahar have not been implemented yet. Quickly, want to touch on Saint's composition. So they went back to the Swain. They are kind of the staple team of the Swain tops.
Akon is the staple of Swain.
He is the staple Swain player. And now what Swain relies on is that the other 2 lanes underneath him push forward. The reason being is because for Swain to be successful, he has to push forward in his lane because he's one of the few champions, like Malzahar, that has 2 damage over time abilities where he can chip away at you while you are underneath your own tower. Now, why Gnar is an important pickup here, and why I think that Snake were actually clever in the end of their draft phase, is that Gnar actually does very well when he's pushed underneath his tower, because he plays a 1v1 lane very similar to an AD carry and has a lot of safety there. So he's one of the few champions that really shouldn't be bullied around by the Swain.
Now that's just scary from SOFM, throwing out so many Voidlings there just to maul.
No, it's an accurate word.
Even saw Chimin now. He started on the blue buff. Missed his barrel at level 1. Nobody saw that though. SOFM is still full health, Frostgrin.
Yes, my army. Clear it for me. Again, where issue is with the Malzahar jungler is if you walk into his jungle, he's actually pretty fragile and susceptible, especially if it's between the cooldowns of having all of those Voidlings available to him. So eyes will be on Chimin to see if he can punish the 1v1 individual matchup. He's also very mana hungry, so the blue buff's important for him in trade-off for tank.
Chimin goes straight buff to buff here on his Gragas, picks up blue, then goes straight back to red. As meanwhile, bottom lane, Jay-Z actually forcing a flash and a heal coming out from XQ there. Very aggressive from Snake's bottom lane.
Possibly thinking that Malzahar was waiting in the wings.
You see Malzahar, he went from the leash to a buff to another buff, and now is clearing out the bottom side of his jungle.
And you actually have Chimin, like you said, doing the SOFM special, so went from buff to buff and is now prioritizing the vision on the Scuttle Crabs. This is one of the early jungle paths that we saw SOFM really popularize in the LPL.
Tank and Otto just continue training in this mid lane. Potions have been burnt by both mid laners, now going to be relying on the power that they have left.
Should be noted that the Victor changes have gone through, so his initial back will be 1250, which is actually fairly significant for Victor. It's a very awkward time to continue to sit into the lane, especially when you're trading so heavily. So it's very important that Tank's actually aggressive with Otto to try to force him to back earlier to itemize into either MR or double Dorans versus getting that Hex Core upgrade.
And so Fem's being caught out here though as Otto goes aggressively forward. Chimin spots him out, is able to body slam straight in towards the Malzahar, but it will be SOFM that picks up first blood, just chucks a Malefic Vision straight on towards the dying Victor.
And Jay-Z's just there to offer a little bit more protection and try to reset this wave into the tower. Again, Otto's not running teleport, so he's not only going to miss out on the kill, but miss out on all of the experience and the gold feeding into his tower.
As we see Seal just rocks up to the mid lane. He's like, yep, you're dead. This is all my farm now. I'm a support, but I'll be a great support.
Which means that not connecting on that kill, Otto is forced him to itemize the double Doran's ring as opposed to making a clean back on first blood to pick up his Hex Core power spike.
Even goes back and picks up a refillable potion for himself. Tank does the exact same thing. But we've already seen what Syndra's can do on just 2 Doran's rings.
But in the end, what this means is that it delays Victor's wave clear potential. Normally, before the changes, Victor would get his Hex Core, he'd have great wave clear, 100-0 on the wave at level 7. Now it's been delayed. An
aggressive Flandre trying to chase on towards Akon here. Flashes forward, gets the stun onto the Swain. Now looking to try and hunt him down. Throws boulders down as well. Akon actually has to flash over the wall. Chimin's even drawn to the top side of the map. But here's Jay-Z in the mid lane. Gets the combo to Otto. SOFM's level 4, but he doesn't care as he picks up a return kill in the mid lane.
This is much closer to game 1 in terms of Snake's performance. Chaos across the map, but they're coming out ahead every single time. There's that 1v1 matchup we were talking about, why they prioritize picking the Gnar without seeing the opponent, knowing that Acorn would likely go towards that Swain. And Victor, buddy, you don't have any of your summoner spells. You're still a low mobility wave clear mage, and Alistar's going to camp your lane.
I've seen a few solo queue jungle Malzahar's Frosco, and every single one of them just farms till 6 and is like, okay, I'm going to flash ultimate a lane now and get a confirmed kill. SOFM decides he's level 4 and that doesn't matter. He just walks into a lane and picks up kills when he can.
To be fair, it's the difference between setting up a gank and setting up a counter gank is where he was really successful. But yes, he got his red buff and he's like, ha, I'm going to sit in this bush and I'm going to slap you with a red buff.
Slow you down for days, and has been able to pick up 2 great kills for himself, getting a nice early advantage for not only him, but also Tank.
We figured it out, Fish. Why Riot nerfed Malzahar the way that they did, shortening his attack range. It was to nerf jungle Malzahar on the red buff.
Red buff is too powerful for Frosco.
It was the nerf bat in the red buff inside the jungle.
We knew exactly what SOFM was going to be pulling out in this game as he heads back to base, picking up the components of his Runic Echoes, I should say. He's about 7 CS up ahead of Chimin, so a very good early start for him. As she was actually waiting in the wings to get a flank off towards Martin and Jay-Z. Even Chimin's down the bottom side of the map. They're trying to try and walk away. Shield gonna get flashed on by the Braum. Chimin doesn't get connected with the body slam, but a teleport will be coming down. A big pulverize comes out from Jay-Z. It will get cancelled actually here, so we'll not see a teleport come down into the bottom lane. Jay-Z does get taken down, but top side of the map, Acorn's gonna pay for that with his life.
Yeah, so Acorn did the noble thing for his team, ran forward, possibly burned his flash summoner as well. Didn't catch the cooldown on that to stop Gnar from getting down into that lane, but trades his life. Tank now mid.
Going really aggressive, uses the unleashed power on towards the Victor. Already had one great stun combo to get him down to half health with the Thunderlord's proc, and now just abuses the Victor in the mid lane.
And the more time that Victor isn't able to sit in this lane to farm, the farther behind his Hexcore power spike becomes. So this is actually very big for Snake and taking down that mid-tier tower.
And this is a level 6 SOFM. He might be on Malzahar Frosco, but some things just don't change as he's now straight back in towards Chimin's jungle and it's taking away the Gromp camp.
Well, to be fair, he definitely has the speed to do that.
We'll get spotted out by a ward while he exits away from Gregors' jungle. I never thought I would see a Malzahar invade this aggressively, then I realized I'm watching SOFM play League of Legends.
Scuttle my minions.
Oh, thank God he's not using the frozen skin. I can't remember what it's called. The snow down Malzahar. One that Frosco thinks is the absolute most terrifying. Oh, not Frosco. Spawn thinks is the absolute most terrifying thing in the world.
Yes, that would be Spawn and Atlas who are afraid of that skin.
I'm just afraid of Malzahar in general. He is scary.
I agree.
But definitely a lot more of an aggressive start from Snake, even though they're in standard lanes this game. Seems like they're a key to success so far, Frosco. You know, pick standard lanes and take Saint down at their own game.
Well, that certainly looks good as we get closer and closer to 6.15 and standard lanes become a bit more empowered. That said, we're having our second rotation of buffs, so Tank going to go ahead and pick up his blue buff, and with SOFM, I believe he still has his blue. Yes, just about to run out though.
Counter jungle away from Chimin.
This is another problem with the jungle Malzahar is he's still very blue reliant. So good news is that he did get the timer on that blue buff, so we'll keep tabs on if Snake continue to contest that objective.
Shooters get a couple of deep wards down on towards the blue buff, but Otto's now being ganked by a Flandre. He's going to go Mega in a second. We'll get the Hyper proc. Now Chimin's caught out here. Tank going to take a lot of damage. Gets ultied back to safety by the Gragas. Flandre going to chase on forward. Gets the stun down. We'll be able to go Gnar in a second if he decides to against Shu, and Chimin knocks the support into the wall. Tank still chasing. Follows up with a stun with his Dark Sphere. Just jumps straight back on top of them. Jay's even getting thrown into the parties. They throw the boulder straight into the Brawl's face. No shield to back him up, and he gets taken down, but it's not done yet. SOFM in the back lines, locks down XQ. Jay-Z's here as well. Styles on them as Chimin is going to get hunted down by Voidlings. The flash forward for the double kill for SOFM in between two turrets, and Snake are now 7-1 up.
And unfortunately, Acorn has now burned his teleport, and it's just going to be for him to casually walk back towards the top side of the lane.
Flashes for another move on top of the Malzahar, but doesn't connect with the root. SOFM lives to fight another day. 4-0-0 on this jungle Malzahar.
And that was just a casual drive-by from Snake. Very well executed and engineered dive. this is what we expect from them. This is what they needed to showcase in Game 2. So it's nice to see them clean up their act and look for that momentum in Game 3.
Saint on the other side, it's the same criticism that we had for them in Game 1 that is now in Game 3. They are meant to be a team that is really strong in the early game. That's what they are really famous for. And they're not taking it to Snake in this game again.
To be very fair for Snake, yes, they came in as Hyper Youth Gaming, then rebranded as Saint into the LPL. But this roster has only really been together for the last, 3 weeks of the LPL in this iteration, and for the majority of the LPL since just the start of the split. Other teams had a massive head start on them in terms of developing synergy and working and growing together as a team. So I think Saint need to be a bit proud of themselves. They took a few maps, they blue-shelled a couple of teams, pat themselves on the back, and continue to find what's working for you going to promotions.
And they still got one more game on their hands here as they are 4,000 gold behind Snake. Very similar to Game 1, the goal lead in favor of the second-place team of Group A. SSLFM with a couple of pink wards has snuck his way in towards the mid lane again. Otto playing a little bit aggressively with Chimin waiting in the wings, but they do have the Malzahar collapsing. Tank gonna get jumped on by the Gragas. Will get knocked in towards the team. The arrow from downtown's able to find the first kill, but Jay-Z rocks up into the mid lane to return one for his team. SOFM is still hunting down Chimin. He's got the Voilings just chasing on forward. Meanwhile, topside of the map, Fandre was waiting for Acorn in a brush, sets himself up, no flash available for this Swain, and he just used his ultimate and is out on cooldown. The boulder will be thrown into his face. The flash forward into the Gnar will come out from Fandre as he slaps him for a kill in the top lane.
And I'm reminded that the best Gnar players in the world are all in the LPL. I know that there's some phenomenal top laners in Korea, but Gnar specifically as a champion. We got the Marn now, so we took that one away from them. And Flandre continuing to put himself up there as a phenomenal Gnar player for the region.
He's just sitting on his Merc threads and double Ruby Crystal at the moment. He is looking really strong up against Acorn. A little bit of a cheeky play, but I'll give it to him nonetheless as XQ is in trouble once again. Jay-Z will get the headbutt into a wall as well as to pulverize. The lockdown from Marta comes out. He flashes forward to get the extra shot off as well. And across the map, Snake are looking strong.
Destroying Saint right now. That's 2-10. We're closing in on a massive gold deficit. I'm not even going to try to do the math right now. I think it's 5K.
Yep.
Nailed it.
It's now even going up even further. Now 6,000 gold up. Snake as finally Otto will get a blue buff for himself after the second one was counter-jungled away by SMFM. And once again, Otto has been targeted out in this mid lane. Game 1, same story as game number 3, as there's an ultimate coming out from the Syndra, left with a sliver of health, not enough to take him down, but forces him away from the lane.
Continuing to bleed out that CS discrepancy. Otto has done a good job trying to minimize that damage, though, although it's only about to get worse, so now opening closer to 20.
Just looking to try and continue pushing this wave. Once again, it is going to be Shield that is brought back towards the mid lane to try and defend this one for his team. Chimin waiting in the wings as well in case things go sour for the Brom.
And now in the top side.
This is a story that we've seen a few times now. Frosco and Flandre just going toe-to-toe against Acorn. Now has his frozen mallets. They're going to be able to continually slow the Swain down, who has yet to complete his Rod of Ages.
We've also seen this one a few times. Snake hunting for their next prey right now, and it looks like it might be poor little Ash.
XQ is able to take down the Krugs for himself.
Back to Victor. Who do we want to murder?
They've got some good vision control over towards the red side of Saint's jungle and using that quite nicely.
So quickly touching back on the Malzahar jungle. So I really like the priority pick that Saint had in terms of picking up the Gragas, just because I like the threat that Gragas brings for the ability to break the mid lane freeze, just to threaten with his cask, bounce off champions like Syndra, like Victor, scoop them off their tower, you kill them, you kill the wave clear, you take the structure. Malzahar brings a very similar thing. Obviously he doesn't have the displacement of a cask, but him walking up to a tower and threatening with that 700 cast range on his ultimate will also do a very similar thing where Otto has to have full team support to stand there and safely wave clear if Malzahar approaches.
So far that has not been the case, although neither mid laner has picked up a kill. Otto has been taken down 4 times with only 1 assist to his name. Meanwhile, the Syndra has picked up 5 and already has that Morellonomicon picked up and built and ready to take to the mid lane. It's been a difficult series for Otto. so far. Had a great game 2, but game 1 and 3 just look like it's the exact same story. As now a Curtain Call being thrown in towards the mid lane here. Tank tries to get the ultimate down, will get lots of damage. The crit comes out, not enough to take him down, but the Deathfire touch will be, as Shu is now the one that has to run away. Chuman will use the ultimate to displace the closing in support, and again Otto's getting picked on.
And they don't even need to use or threaten with the Malzahar ultimate. They simply rotate Martin since the bottom side tower is down and quickly collapse the mid one. Snake could now look to rotate top side, although they're disappearing into Fog of War on the bottom side. So Acorn, kind of a sigh of relief. XQ, not so much.
Snake now have 8,000 gold up ahead of Saint, looking to try and take down this top lane out of turret as well. Flandre is still being a nuisance here against Acorn. Just pushing him on the tower constantly and poking him out wherever he possibly can. Will be able to dodge the never move. Takes a lot of damage trying to trade back, but he absolutely doesn't care at the moment.
He's got his frozen mallet picked up, so his chase potential on an elongated lane is very strong, and he's continuing to abuse the fact that it's a range versus range matchup, which typically Swain doesn't experience in that top side.
And so I'm trying to be a little bit cheeky there and looking to contest the red buff. Was spotted out by a unique ward that was placed down by Saint, and immediately throws a couple of minions over the wall and is trying to take down the buffs for himself. Malefic Visions will actually be spread over towards Chuman. He takes half of his health and damage.
And now the setup for bottom here. Otto needs to be careful.
Puts down the gravity field, separates Jay-Z from his gank path and wrapping around the Victor in the bottom lane. That's why I'm still on top of this ward. Saint know exactly where he is. He doesn't really care. His home is always being inside the enemy jungle.
It's a really cool ward in that it's not punishing Fog of War, but looking through Fog of War. Even if you ward inside that brush, you don't get as much vision around that corner as where Saint actually have that one placed.
Top side of the map, still the same story. Flandre being an absolute nuisance against Acorn. This time around, though, the trade is going back slightly in Acorn's favor, but it's still Flandre that pushes up the turret.
And is also dominating the CS discrepancy between those two, which again is typically not where Swain exists. Usually it's him shoving people underneath tower and then poking them repeatedly in the eye.
And it's Flandre the one with 4 kills as well as Snake looking to try and collapse on towards the bottom lane. Otto in a little bit of trouble. Curtain Call is being popped. Jay-Z is moving down. Gravity Field looking to lock down the Alistar, but it's going to be all 4 Curtain Calls get landed. Jay-Z with the final slap is going to be enough. It's not even going to be that, but he just rocks up and takes him down.
Little bit of trouble. That's a lot of bit of trouble. Otto is now 0-6-1. That is a disaster from your mid laner.
He is not having a great game. Very similar vein to game 1 as now Saint have to actually rotate XQ down towards the bottom side of the map. She'll be there to try and help him out. A ward even being put down by Jay-Z to threaten them. And now Shooter gets locked down by the Malzahar. Will get knocked back into by Jay-Z as well. The ultimate can lock down the Alistar, but Tank's rocket up to the bottom lane too. XQ has to flash. The volley's not going to connect. And the Voidlings finish off the job for SOFM.
Snake thought that there was an issue with their composition in game 2. Guys, we don't have enough hard CC. They open up game 3 and they're like, I want hard CC on my top laner, my jungler, my mid laner, my AD carry, and my support.
And that's one way to fix your problems for Oscarin. On the flip side, Saint picking up a very different team comp again, but denying a lot of crucial picks that Snake used in game 1. It's a very Saint-style team comp, but they're just not utilizing it effectively.
Well, the issue is that they've lost complete control over the midpoint on the map. Because Otto is so weak and so far behind right now, it helps that Victor is I'm going to call him a low econ wave clear mage. So he'll still do good AoE damage in a big 5v5, but right now he's just so fragile and very brittle that because they've lost the most central part of their map, Snake own everything.
And Saint are really a win lane, win game team like we mentioned in game 1, but once again it's Snake that are the ones that are winning every single lane at the moment. Very difficult for Saint to pull back in this game, 9,000 gold behind Snake.
They need to stall out, but in how their composition should bridge, it should be Victor right now that's decently powerful, or at least able to stall out enough with his wave clear for Ashe and Swain to catch up with their core itemization.
Tell you what though, Snake recognized that as well. They have absolutely shut down Otto. He's, like we mentioned, 0-6. Still trying to upgrade his Hex Clutch, still trying to find his second item wherever he can. In fact, went for the Onion Boots of Lucidity, again a little bit of extra cooldown reduction. He's up against a Syndra, a champion that threatens the 100-0 most anyone else.
Yep. and definitely punishes mid-range mages just because of the long range of her stun. But there's the arrow, and there's
big flash
the hit.
Gets away from the target Ash was looking for, and Martin just cops one to the face.
That's when Martin turns and looks at his team. Guys?
Thank you.
Of course, it was Tank that burned his flash there, so he didn't hit it closer to the danger zone underneath Saint's tower.
Martin's just like, well, great, I guess I'm stunned now.
This is fine, I got it. Caught it with his teeth.
Meanwhile, the top side of the map, Flandre is still split pushing as this Acorn will finally be sent up to the top lane to deal with him. Already got this turret down to half health. Never move being used. Flandre avoids that one. But Otto's up here as well. Trouble in paradise as Anar has to try and hop away. The bird will come down and try to slow him down. But the hyper's enough for Flandre to escape. And that means that Snake can pick up another dragon.
And that's actually important because Flandre was a bit overextended without any real reason. Snake had already backed off into Fog of War, so they weren't threatening any other big objective. They do manage to get the dragon, but if Flandre had gotten caught there, as I say a little bit early.
He is going to get caught here, Frostgurn, as he's trying to escape there. Flashes away. Not going to get a big Gnar ulti off, but he does just there. They're still chasing him down. Ultimate even being burnt by Chimin to take down the Gnar. But Saint do get a pick in the top lane.
Just spoke a little bit too soon for Flandre. It's okay, buddy. Just a bit overzealous.
Well, we see Nars often debate between going for a Black Cleaver or a Frozen
There's
Mallet.
no debate here.
There's no debate for Flandre. He's just gone for both. He can't quite decide which one he wanted, so he's just like, why not? I just buy both items.
Have you heard of Flandre's boardroom?
No.
It's the meeting room in which he sits at the head of the table, and he's just like, this is how this is going to go. I'm going to build full damage Gnar, and you're going to deal with it. Why? Because I'm Flandre.
You know what? He was not happy with the way Acorn was able to style on people last game. This time he wants it to be, you know, he wants to be the spotlight in Game 3, Frostgurn.
It's the same board meeting where Flandre decided that he was going to play Trinity Force LeBlanc that Atlas likes to bring up.
He's a character, to say the least, on Snake, but he's an interesting character and one that does incredibly well. In fact, has 2 daggers at the moment. We'll have to see if that eventually turns into a Hurricane Gnar.
He's a very polarizing player. I feel like people either love Flandre or they can't stand him. I am definitely in the Flandre camp. I love explosive, exciting, and dynamic players. Flandre certainly fits into that camp, but he's either going to win you the game or he's going to lose you the game.
And that just sounds like Snake's team in general, especially with SOFM in there. So here comes another curtain called Shield. Puts up the shields, able to block out lots of that damage. As Flandre looking to just go one-on-one against Acorn, the Hyper will proc, and he will get that final auto attack to pick up the one-on-one.
Just Goomba stomps right on top of him there. Flandre has certainly put this bird in the ground. That is 5-1-0 now on the Gnar.
And he does have his teleport available as well, so Snake immediately threatened to try and take down the Baron. SOFM is on a jungle. Malzahar, so these Voidlings going to be able to take up quite a bit of damage. Chimin looking to try and jump in towards this pit, see if he can get a steel tank. This time we'll get locked out by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. JZ tries to stop Chimin from getting on towards the pit. He's looking to try and go for the steal. Let's see who gets this one as SOFM gets the smite as he locks down Chimin with his ultimate. Flandre will fall as he tries to defend his team. Saint still looking to fight as a big stun will come out from Tank, stopping them. Shield still flashing forward. Otto trying to go over the back. Shield will get taken down as there goes JZ for another kill. A double kill comes out for Martin. SOM has flashed forward. A triple kill will be coming out for the Jin. And Snake just clean up Saint.
And Saint are just too far behind. That was a Chaos Storm, a majority of Snake's lineup right there, just sitting in the Baron pit, but it did almost no damage. Otto has been gutted by Snake's early aggressive plays, and everything led to this moment.
He only has a Morel Nomicon Frostgurn as well as a slightly upgraded Hex Core. You can see the look of defeat on a couple of the Saint members there. It's 418. They are over 10,000 gold behind Snake, and they're really looking to put the pedal to the metal there and try and show that they are the second best team in their group.
And yes, Otto has been gutted, but the other thing is Acorn has also been gutted. Snake identifying who is the true carry of Saint, and it is definitely their top laner. This Swain, 0-3, not in a much better position than his mid laner.
He's now with the Baron buff. Snake are definitely looking to try and take down even more objectives for themselves. Ash with the Hurricane trying to do what he can to clear up this wave. In fact, Flandre is continuing with his unique item build. He's gone back to base, picked up a Stinger for himself. Seems like he wants a little bit of a Trinity Force on his Gnar.
If he can build it on LeBlanc, he can build it on Gnar. Don't you question him.
It makes a lot more sense on the latter champion, which he is playing today. 5-2-1 on his Gnar at the moment.
I appreciate how you had to definitely clarify that.
Who knows? I mean, we've got a Malzahar jungle in this match, Frosco, and I don't know if you've noticed, but things have been a little bit weird.
You don't tell Flandre what to build. Flandre will tell you what he's building.
I can see that one. Meanwhile, they're still pushing towards this mid lane. You can check out what SOM's been picking up, as this Malzahar did go for the Rylai's as well as the Miralanomicon, so nothing too different from what we see mid lane Malzahar builds, except that he's got the Runic Echoes as his first item.
A big thing is the 2-item, as I say, this Flandre's going in.
And so is Jay-Z, locks down Acorn. Flandre is about to turn Mega. SOFM locks them down. There's the Mega Gnar coming out. Locks out so many members of Saint. They just have to try and fight from 2 screens away again, and it's not even a Pokemon that's coming out from Snake, as a flash forward coming out from Tank just obliterates Otto. I think he's seen this grey screen one too many times in this game, Frostgrid, and Snake are just looking to try and push towards the Nexus.
Flandre gets the flank, they get the minion wave crashing with the Baron buff, and Snake are looking to close this.
They certainly are. They do have a couple of minions pushing on towards the Nexus
They've
turrets.
got an incoming wave.
5 seconds until Shield comes back online. 10 for XQ and 20 for Otto. A double stun onto Chimin and Acorn. Jay-Z threatening the initiation, but the first Nexus turret is going to fall. Snake are still pushing. The respawns are coming out from Saint as they look to try and repel Snake away from their base. Flandre will turn Nega, was trying to stop Acorn as XQ runs out as Ash will get locked down by the Jhin there, and Saint successfully live to fight another day, but it's a huge destructive force that's been wrecked through Saint's base.
A single Nexus turret still standing for them. Yes, they have their inhibs on both side lanes, but not looking good for Saint right now.
Saints are now 16,000 gold behind Snake, Frosco, and it is dire situations.
And I was so pleased. I was about to go into my long-winded spiel about Malzahar and his itemization, but then this guy on your screen.
He just kills Otto.
He can't stop.
Otto has now died 9 times in this game. I think he's seen more grey screen than he has the rest of this match.
You know the rabbit from Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Yes.
That's what Gnar is right now in this game. Just lunging from victim to victim fish, just tearing out their throats.
Oh, Flandre.
Just a vicious animal.
He's definitely got a lot of gold in his pocket. He is yet to go back to base since we last checked in with him, and since then, Saint's base has been absolutely destroyed. 3 Ocean Dragons have been picked up by Snake as well.
Which means that they can continue these elongated sieges, although they're not one for patience, they're more one for action.
Well, bottom lane inhibitor has fallen down. Snake looking to try and push in towards Saint's base. Inhibitor is the next target as Kurtakor gets opened up here, trying to find XQ, and Otto gets 2 shots down. The crit will land, but that just lands on towards the Ash as the inhibitor does finally fall. Snake have broken the base again, and this time decide to back out.
Yep, definitely still respecting Saint. I have a feeling it's because the Baron will be spawning in 2 minutes, so don't push yourself. Things been a little bit haywire in game number 2. Make it clean, clinical, methodical, reset your position on the map, and look towards that big purple worm.
And doing just that. Snake are so far ahead of this match. I don't even want to read out the gold leads anymore between these 2 teams because it's just astronomical. Otto has been having a really poor game here. 0-9-2, Acorn 0-3-1.
We're going to do an easier system for you, Fish. It's about 28 minutes in the game. There's 26 kills. That's how well Snake are going.
A bloodbath in game 1 and 3 between Saint and Snake. Flandre's gone back to base, Frosco, and he's picked up that Trinity Force for himself. He's now going for a Zeal item, as he has the Shiv picked up. He's now in a little bit of trouble as well as he gets knocked into the Enchanted Crystal, just immediately obliterated from the map. I think he kind of deserved that one.
Definitely. Ping pong ball. That's a lot of key ultimates down. The Ash Arrow, the Chaos Storm, as well as the Cask. So if Snake want to pull the trigger, yes, they're missing the big AoE front line of Gnar, but they have all of the important cooldowns.
They've got a big wave that's pushing on towards the top side of the map. Chimin, you're meant to be defending your base, buddy, because the rest of your friends are getting destroyed while you're taking a red buff as Shield gets locked down. Otto gets popped by the Dustblade of Drakthar, and already 2 kills coming out for Snake. As look at this, XQ getting get flashed on by SOFM. His little Voidling puppies were doing all the work for him there. And even in a 4-on-5, Snake just flexed their muscles in front of Saint.
And there's all of those important cooldowns that we were talking about, the ones that Saint don't have to be counteractive on this map.
Oh, poor Acorn here. Gonna have to try and dodge out as many of these bullets as possible. Has Zonya's available, but will not be able to use it in time as the curtain closes for Jin as he picks up the final kill that Snake lead as they're able to take the series 2-1 against Saint.
And this is the dominating performance that we expected out of Snake. Yes, Saint were able to drag this to 3 games, so took a map off the team. Well done. They should pat themselves on the back for that. They looked great in game 2, but this is the definitive, dominating, and momentum play that Snake need going into playoffs.
Exactly that, and congratulations to Snake as they pick up a 2-1 victory over Saint. And they had a really great game 1, used an interesting team comp against Saint. Great game 3 as well. Game 2 even showed some great strategy. That's just the only one that really fell apart.
What's really important is to recognize that Snake realized what went wrong in game 2. The fact that their composition didn't really have a lot of hard CC available to it. They very quickly remedied this situation, picked up CC on every single champion, and just snowballed through Saint.
And used it fantastically in that 3rd game there against Saint. Saint, they showed signs of life throughout the series, but it just wasn't enough to take down the 2nd place team in Group A.
And again, you know, Saint, they need to be proud of themselves to some aspect, especially Acorn. He's been a standout performer for pretty much majority of their games. Anytime they take a map, it's because Acorn's the guy leading the charge there. So he had a phenomenal Aurelia, forced Snake to ban it. That's all you can really hang your hat on. And
that ban really helped him out because then we saw the Gnar take on the Swain up in the top lane. And Flandre used that champion fantastically. He had a interesting item build, Frostcone, but he was still able to absolutely dominate the Swain at the top lane.
I mean, when you're that far ahead, it really doesn't matter what you itemize with your gold. You've got 3 items on your opponent. You're just going to crush him no matter what. It is important to underline that these games didn't mean anything for Snake or Saint concerning the standings. They were simply pride matches. We still got to see some very fun, explosive games, but I have a feeling that things will be a little bit different, a little bit tighter as we get closer and closer to the promotion of the playoff tournaments.
Exactly that. I mean, Snake will be heading into playoffs as the 2nd place seed from Group A. Saint, unfortunately, will be heading into the promotion and relegation tournament as the last place team coming out from Group A. But both teams, like I said, big pride match, trying out a few different things. We saw that in game 1 with the interesting poke comp that came out from Snake, and we also saw the Malzahar jungle coming out in game 3. They were throwing champions around Summoner's Rift here.
The kitchen sink at everything, and that's what's really cool. This game didn't matter. There wasn't pressure that Snake had to win here or it would make or break their playoff hopes. So they had the opportunity, hey, we can play some very peculiar gimmick champions. We can play some very interesting compositions that we haven't done and kind of test the waters. And I think it's really important to look at the series and say, okay, this is what Snake kind of have sitting on the back burner, that there's still something left in the tank and they're willing to go the distance.
And you know, once again, we see both of these teams, like we mentioned time and again, this game does not impact the standings of the 2 teams at all. But again, another team playing another game that doesn't affect the standings. And again, 2 teams that really gave it all in all 3 of these games. You know, unique picks aside, they were really out to try and prove who was the better team.
I mean, this is just something very unique to the LPL. It's just a very aggressive and explosive region. They like to have fun. They like to go for the throat. So there's never going to be a slow moment where LPL teams just kind of put it on the back burner and back up. It's full steam ahead all the time.
Well, you know, explosive I think is the right word to describe that series, especially game number 1 and game number 3. We saw a very explosive Snake take to the Rift. Game 2, however, it looked like they kind of, you know, like setting back a little bit, trying to set up a unique map play strategy, getting great lane swaps off and playing a little bit slower. Game 2 were like, well, that didn't work. We're just going to go back to what we did in game 1 and just dumpster people left, right, and center. Yeah,
trying out a different composition, and like you said, bringing up that lane swap in particular. That's what I think was kind of really unique and cool about this series, despite that it didn't mean anything for the standings. It's just the different strategies and playbook that Snake really revealed in this series.
And we saw as well, Saint, they were able to try and fight back quite valiantly, especially in game 2. They were 4,000 gold behind. The map rotational strategy that came out from Snake was very brutal and was suffocating Saint almost. But once again, great performances, especially from their carries. We saw XQ doing well in the gym. We saw Acorn doing really well in the Aurelia. Even the mid lane coming out from the Syndra was fantastic for Saint. So they still show to have these star players on their team. But for now, we're going to be able to take a look at that MVP for the 3rd and final game between Snake and Saint, as it is the jungle of Malzahar from S2FM.
And yes, Saint's carries did do a good job, but it wasn't enough to keep up with this superstar. SOFM, starting his career in the LPL, has just been non-stop fantastic performances. He either goes big or he goes home, and this time around he went big, 9-0-7 on that Malzahar jungle.
I mean, to put it quite frankly, he joined the team rather late into the start of the first round robin of the groups, and he has been able to pick up 10 MVP performances already for Snake.
He is the heart and soul of the team right now, which typically it's around the mid laner. And don't get me wrong, tank is still very important to Snake, but SOFM, I mean, he's the partner in crime to that duo.
Certainly is, and has been playing his jungle quite uniquely. Has some interesting jungle paths. We saw a few junglers, even in this game, Chimin adapting to a jungle path that SOFM kind of started in the LPL, and now he's throwing unique picks here and there. I mean, we've already seen him pick up Hurricane on Graves. Now he's going for a Malzahar. Who knows what this guy's going to be throwing out next?
And that's what every team in the playoffs facing across from Snake has to question, has to wonder. How are we going to shut down SOFM? How are we going to put him down on the back foot? He has certainly shown an Achilles heel that if he falls behind, he really doesn't have that developed of a play style to change over to being more of a herbivore style jungle. He's pretty much carnivore or nothing.
And a big Achilles heel for Snake in general is the playoff run. We saw Spring Split as well. They looked great heading into playoffs and just fell flat on their face as soon as playoffs started. So although they're looking strong, especially in that match against Saint, they really have to keep ramping it up as they head into those playoffs.
And that's really just the curse of Snake in general, is that they get so close every single time, but they're forever fourth place. So this time, can they break that upper echelon of the elite teams in the LPL where they continue to just be a barely irrelevant talking point?
Saint, on the other hand, look like the complete flip, even though they're not heading into playoffs. You know, they start the season pretty poorly, you know, pick it back a little bit, pick up games here and there, and then they head into promotion relegations, unfortunately, and that's where they really look like they shine. HYG did it in the Spring Split. They looked great heading into promotion relegations, performed well there. Saint look like they want to try and do the exact same thing to keep their LPL dreams alive.
I mean, it's getting the band back together, effectively. They pulled out the HYG jungler, they got the bottom lane there, so before they start out with kind of this mix and match of, you know, buttons all sewn upside down and inside out on this ugly Christmas sweater, and now, you know, it's kind of reformed itself. They look a little bit classier. They've got the developed synergy going, and they should be good to go into this promotion match.
And you know, they might be able to take the LSPL teams to their own game, because the LSPL team's very famously well known for their great laning phase, for their great early game as well. Saint showing that they still have that, and it's going to be a difficult task for whichever team has to face off against Saint.
But they do have the advantage that they have a lot of veteran experience and talent on the roster. So yes, you are correct. The Saint are very much still a win lane, win game style of team, and when they face off against the rest of the LSPL teams, that it's a very similar snowball win lane win game style, but Saint have that extra threat of, you know, we have someone like Acorn and Otto and XQ, these guys who have been around the scene for a long time and can hopefully make the difference in these game deciding calls, Baron or Elder Drake.
And they kind of know which teams from Group B are heading into the promotion relegation tournament as well. Now it's now going to be LGD as well as OMG heading into that one. It's still undecided between Invictus Gaming and Newbie. We will be seeing Invictus Gaming play their next match against EDG in just a bit, but Invictus Gaming and Newbie are the two undecided factors heading into that promotion relegation, so they kind of have they kind of can scout them a little bit, it seems.
You know what's hilarious is that Newbie has an LSPL team, Newbie Young, sitting down there who are doing very well, and Doinby is playing on that team. How funny would it be if Newbie Young ended up relegating Newbie from the LPL? The revenge of the mid laner. The
revenge of the Doinby could actually happen here in the LPL, but we still have to see how that one plays off, and we are heading closer into playoffs. The only spot that has not been locked in is also between Invictus Gaming and Newbie, and also a couple of seeding here and there between the different groups. I believe Vici can try and fight for third place as well. IG is still trying to fight for that fourth place, so it's still going to come down to the last few games in the LPL. And playoffs are looking to be like a really tight pack at the top of the table.
It's a very harsh gauntlet run for LPL playoffs. Again, it's best of fives all the way through. The lower you are in terms of where you finish, again, top four, so top 8 teams, top 4 from either group go into the playoff gauntlet. You have to play that much more best of fives. So you want to get just that next step up on the ladder to dodge another series.
Well, we can take a look at the highlights from that game. Snake are going to be one of those teams that do head into the playoffs, and they had a phenomenal Game 1 and Game 3 against Saints here today, especially from this guy. Flandre, you might have had a weird build, buddy, but you played out of your mind on this Gnar.
And just really showcasing how many talented Gnar players are riddled throughout the LPL. Flandre just one of a few there, but this highlights wasn't really just Flandre, it was mostly SOFM as he does his drive-by here on this Malzahar.
Yep, he puts on his best Gragas impersonation, wrapping right behind the turret, locks someone down for his team, flashes forward for the double as well. No big deal.
And a big issue with Malzahar jungle is he's thought to be fairly susceptible in the 1v1 against most jungle matchups, but wasn't punished at all. In fact, he went on the offensive.
Yeah, he was completely healthy at the start of his jungle clear there. You know, went from his leash on Krugs to red to blue and then just cleared out the rest of his jungle. Chimin, yes, was able to get good vision control down by taking down the Scuttle Crowds, but SOM just farmed up and got some really great early ganks off at level 4 in Malzahar.
And definitely you see the power of Malzahar jungle in full swing when he's able to contest monster objectives like that and contribute to team fights like this.
And this just looked like Game 1 all over again for Oscar, and it wasn't even a poke comp that came out from Snake, and it still looked like they were trying to fight them from an entire screen away. Really flexing their muscles in both of those games.
The power of Jin and Martin looking so phenomenal on that champion.
And once again, Otto being shut down in that mid lane. Snake had a strategy and they executed it fantastically in 2 of their matches of that best of 3 series to pick up a 2-1 win. But we still have one more best of 3 series tonight. It's going to be Invictus Gaming taking on EDG in 10 minutes.